Abducted by Aliens by Paul McCann. A short story. Ian arrived at the garden centre as usual, ready for his day's work. The only thing was no one was there to instruct him what to do and where to go. Being disabled, he required help with his daily duties. But there was no supervisors there. So the general manager was usually in his office, but was also absent. So Ian waited for people to come. Waited for 20 minutes, but nobody came. So he decided to find something to do. His lift that morning had gone, so it would be a few hours before transport would return to bring him home. He pushed himself in his wheelchair down to the nursery section where he was working putting price tags on some of the items. He worked until 11, which was about morning tea time, and pushed himself up the ramp into the lunchroom in the admin building. Still, there was nobody around in the office, so he decided to try to ring the support team, but the phones were all dead. Something was just not right. Without any explanation or reason why everyone was missing, he began to panic a little bit and pushed his wheelchair into the lunchroom. He opened up the fridge. There was a solid roll there and some milk, a few bottles of water. After he ate and drank, he went outside in the wheelchair to look for a supervisor, but still couldn't find anyone anywhere. He tried to remain calm and pushed his wheelchair up the steep ramp to the exit of the garden centre, but it was too hard. As it was getting close to lunch, he remembered that the lunch lady from the Hungry Buddy Cafe, she always called to take orders. 10 minutes later, when she did arrive, Ian waited in the general manager's office. When she entered the office, Ian told her what was going on in the garden centre. She laughed, at first thinking that maybe he made it up, but soon changed her tune when no one was there to place the lunch order. It was at this time a small spacecraft landed in the garden centre right in front of Ian and the lunch lady. Strange noise began to come from the spaceship, and one by one the spaceship landed, and the garden centre staff walked out from the spaceship store, and a bright light shone around them. As all the garden centre workers returned to their workplace, it was like nothing had happened. 6 young men who used to be disabled came softly walking towards Ian and the lady. One of them produced a ball from his pocket, and he threw it up in the air. The ball sat there in mid-air, motionless. Ian and the lady fell into a deep sleep, and the 6 men stood and they stared with a smile upon their face. They carried Ian and the lady over to the spaceship, where they were placed into a chamber. As the spacecraft's engines were turned on, the 6 men took a place inside the spacecraft, and in a few seconds it blasted off from the ground. It shot off into the sky and into space beyond. As the 2 new members of the crew regained their consciousness, they were approached by a group of green-skinned creatures. "Welcome to our ship," they said, and they continued. "If you don't want to come with us, we will understand why, but it's time to enter another dimension. We must be leaving now. So is it hello or goodbye?" Ian looked at the lady, and suddenly one of the young men stood up and he said, "You remember me? I used to be disabled, but now I'm normal again. These creatures are able to help you with things. Trust them." Ian wiped the sleep from his eye and he said, "Let's go." The lunch lady nodded her head in agreement, and the spaceship shot off faster at time warp speed into a distant universe. Planets and stars whizzed past like corduroy streaks, and Ian was placed inside a strange compartment then, where he was hit with lasers and other whirring lights and flashes and other devices beyond comprehension. He felt an explosion within his chest, and before his legs felt new again, he walked away from the compartment on his own for the very first time in his life, in a state of mental and physical health he had gone beyond crisis point. One of the creatures looked. "We have been instructed by a higher power to intervene before you destroy your planet and your whole race completely." After being assisted back into the spaceship, Ian sat there and drifted off to sleep. The lunch lady also, she felt relaxed after getting a warm cup of tea and something to eat. Suddenly their heads were filled with knowledge, and in a flash, everything was gone. The spaceship blasted off, leaving scorch marks across the universe. And in no time at all, they were back in the garden centre. Some small talk communication in the lunchroom, and the staff. Ian there, he could see in the sky, the spaceship streaks had left marks. Everyone was busy now at work at the garden centre, potting up new plants, busy at work. They had a new importance, an urgency about the work they were doing, and all those who had once been disabled were now able to communicate on different higher levels at work as their new roles as gardeners. The general manager called together a team to work now in new areas for more money, and more money than they ever had before. New work conditions were put in place, and new morals were now being passed on and addressed. Everyone had a part to play. They had a mission, a new mission in life. This now could not be solved. The problems that once were. The things that they could not do. The people who they could not work with. The garden centre now was a new place from everyone's point of view. For one important person, the manager came with a new understanding about issues everyone had been entrusted with to make changes, not only in the garden centre, but in the world they lived in. For the visitors to this world had made changes to their minds and their attitudes, and of all those that they had spoken to. And in a short foreseeable future, they knew that life would take on new meanings. And from the garden centre to the whole world, there would be new benefits for everyone, the entire human race. The end.